The reason why you haven't hit your goal yet, regardless of what it is, it's not because you don't have the right strategy, or you don't have the right mentor, or you enrolled into the wrong course, or you don't have that perfect routine. It's that you're still showing up every day as the current version of you, and you're showing up as a person who hasn't done it yet. And that person, the current version of you, is never going to get you there. Because if the current version of you could get you there, then you would have already been there. And I'm saying this just off experience. I've lived it, I've experienced it. And mindset is one of those words that everyone just throws out there as if it's just some concept everyone's supposed to understand and the meaning of it is clear. And that's not the case. Mindset is more of just a concept. It's the way you think, it's the way you act, it's the way you talk, it's the way you go about your day. It's more of a mental thing than a physical thing, because a lot of people think mindset and immediately their brain goes to discipline and waking up early and having a cold shower and doing this task and making sure everything is perfect. But it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing, and it's something I learned the hard way. So when most people hear mindset, they think, oh, just waking up with a positive attitude and having a good mindset, meaning always being excited for the day and looking forward to tackle down the tasks you have ahead of you and looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, hey, you got this. But that's not the real meaning of mindset. When I'm talking about mindset, I mean, who are you being right now? What type of person are you at the moment? What is your identity as a person? What are the type of decisions you are making? And at the end of the day, the current version of you is a reflection of all the decisions you've made in the past, the people who you talk to, how you talk to them, the way you've made your decisions, what type of decisions you made. That's a reflection of the current version of you. So if you want a different life and you want a different result and you want to achieve this big goal, you have to stop being that version of you that you have been for the past 10, 20 years. If you keep making those same decisions and if you keep thinking in that same way, you're never going to be able to achieve that goal. And the misconception is, in order to be that different version of you, all you got to do is just try harder. You got to be disciplined, you got to try harder, and you're going to get there. And I know it feels crazy, but the solution is you just have to start acting, start believing that you are already that version of you. Before you made the money, before you hit that goal, before you became successful, before you bought that car that you always wanted to, you have to believe that you already are that person. Before anything has happened, you have to start talking like him. You have to start making decisions like him. What type of decisions would that version of me who's successful and who's making all this money, what type of decisions is he going to make? How is he going to make those decisions? Is he going to contemplate those decisions? Is he going to doubt himself when he makes a decision? Or is he going to make those decisions quick? And is he going to be smart about his decisions? So whenever something comes up, you start to think, before you actually take that decision, you're like, what is that version of me that is already successful? What is he going to make? What is he going to decide to do? So if the solution is not just trying harder and locking in and grinding, what is the solution? The solution is first to sit down with yourself and understand who that version of you is before you've made it. So sit down with a pen and paper and think to yourself, the version of me that is already successful, what does he look like? Who does he talk to? What people does he surround himself with? How does he make decisions? You have to, in detail, write every single thing about that person. So first comes the identity, and then the evidence comes after it, meaning the things you have achieved comes after it. But first you have to have that identity sorted. And one of the most influential people in the world and one of the greatest boxers, Muhammad Ali, said this: I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was. He already knew in his head that he's going to be the greatest. Before he even got to that level, he already believed it in himself. He had that self-belief. So he decided who he wanted to be. And then he went and became that person. And you might say, oh, Muhammad Ali was a complete different level, we can't get to Muhammad Ali's level. But think about it. Imagine he thought the same thing. with boxers that were successful and influential at that time. Imagine he thought to himself, oh, I can never reach that person's level because, they're so good and they have the mindset and I'm never going to be able to. If he thought that way, then he would have never been able to get to that level that he got to and, be that famous and be that influential and change the world. So you and me have to also think the same way Muhammad Ali thought. Believe it before it has happened. Believe that there's a version of you out there that can actually make it, that can actually achieve those goals, and then become that person. You have to actually believe that that person exists, and that in order to be that person, you're gonna have to believe it first. It all is in the mind. And look, it doesn't matter what you're chasing, whether you're chasing a business, whether you're chasing a career, whether you're chasing to start a family. And look, for me, for example, I'm trying to, be a closer. But right now I'm a setter. And in order for me to become a closer, I'm going to have to start behaving like I'm already a closer. If I don't believe that I can become a closer right now, and I don't act like that version of me who was already a closer, then I'll never get there. Because the current version of me is not going to align with that version of me who's already a closer. Look, and I'll be honest, at first, it's going to feel like you're faking it. It's going to feel like you're lying to yourself. But again, have you ever done that? It's just something you're not used to. And it's because there's that gap. There's the gap of the current version of you and that future version of you. And look, it's not all about just visualizing it and manifesting it and writing it down on, a piece of paper. Yes, you can write it down on a piece of paper. But at the end of the day, you have to start acting on everything you just wrote down. You have to start acting on that image of yourself that you have. You have to start acting. You can't expect it to just appear, right? You probably heard it hundreds of times. Professional football players, professional athletes, already imagining that they won that trophy or they won that match or they won that fight. They're already imagining that they won it, right? And they go into it believing that they have already won. But it's not like they just, 5 weeks away from the match day or the fight week, they just imagined it and then they stop training. No, they still put in the effort, get in every day to train, because they know the version of themselves that has won the game is going to be doing what they're doing right now, which is putting in the time, which is putting the effort and putting in the reps no matter what. Because that's the version of them that is successful is going to do. And it's just understanding that way of thinking, understanding that I have to start thinking like that version of me that is already successful. I know I'm being repetitive, but it really is that simple. And a lot of times we overcomplicate it, but it's very simple. Now here's the issue, and my personal experience when I didn't have that mindset when I started the high ticket sales and when I started other things as well. For example, when I first started my marketing agency and I went into it with the wrong mindset. I saw people online making money and I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. They're telling me I'm going to be able to make 10K, a month in a matter of 3 weeks, in a matter of a couple of months. And I started it. And at the beginning, it's amazing. You make a lot of progress. You're motivated. You're disciplined. You want to achieve that goal. But a few weeks in, when something goes wrong or when it gets a bit tough, and when you realize that it actually requires more work than it appeared and more work than the way people market it to you, then when you don't have the right mindset, which I didn't have at the time, because I didn't have that right mindset, I gave up and I told myself maybe this thing is not right for me. And the reason for that wasn't because I wasn't putting the effort. It was because while I was putting in the efforts and I was putting all those long hours of work, I didn't have that self-belief. I didn't believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't believe that the amount of effort I'm going to put is eventually going to get to my goal. And it all came down to mindset. So I started to doubt myself. And then I was like, oh, let me move on to something else. So then I moved on to trading. Then I moved on to this. And even within high ticket sales, I'm going to be honest, within like my first month, after not being able to land an interview, my expectation was I'm going to start this and I'm going to, start making money as soon as possible. But when I hit that first roadblock, again, because I did not have the right mindset, because I was not thinking like the version of me who has already gotten a role, who already has, you know, who already has a role, who already succeeded in the interview, who already landed an offer. Because I was not thinking as that version of me, I felt demotivated. I felt like I was wasting time. I felt like I lost. I just felt lost. And then I started contemplating again. I started saying, oh, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe high ticket sales isn't for me. And the worst thing that can happen is not you giving up on that specific business, but you giving up on yourself as a whole. You giving up on the idea that there's a better future out there for you. And you start telling yourself, maybe a 9 to 5 is for me. Maybe, this whole business thing or just this whole self-development thing is not for me. Maybe I should just work a 9 to 5. Maybe that's all I'm capable of. And that's the bottom of the bottom. That's like the worst it can get. And for a lot of people, it does reach that stage. Okay, so what is the practical way to actually build that mindset or build that way of thinking and start making decisions like that future version of you so you can actually become that future version of you? So every day you have to remind yourself, why is it that you want that specific goal? You have to genuinely sit down with yourself. And this is something I thought that was ridiculous. I thought it was unnecessary. It doesn't make sense. It's a waste of time. For a very long time, that's what I thought. I thought, why do that? Why? All you have to do is just work hard. All you have to do is just sit down on your computer, put in the long hours, and it's all gonna work out. And the moment I stopped thinking that way, that's when things changed for me. That's when things started to move forward. And look again, I'm not, successful in high ticket sales yet, but I believe that I am already successful. And I know with that mindset, I'm gonna get there. Now, am I gonna get there in a few months? Who knows? That is not up to my hand. All I care about is what can I do every single day, every single hour to get closer to that goal. And then I leave the rest to God. I leave the rest to Allah. It doesn't matter. And that's something I'm going to talk in another video. And it's just this concept of detaching from the outcome. So I'll leave you with this. The version of you who has success, who has the money, who has the freedom, that version of you already exists. Right now, he's just on the other side of a decision that you haven't made yet. And the decision is this: stop waiting to become him. Start being him today. Start being him right now.